everyone. This is a video of just before I finished my new rack, but you're not going to see this video until after my rack is completed. And Kevin decided that he would like to be part of the video too. He's helping. Anyway, I wanted to do the video this morning because as you can see, the water in my tanks is cloudy right now, and that is because of a bacterial bloom. And so these are brand new tanks being set up, and so I needed to try and get them cycled as quickly as possible. And so in order to do that, I decided to go with two methods. One I've kind of used before, and the other a new product. So I decided to go with Seachem Stability and Fritz Zyme 7. And Kevin says that's a really good idea. He likes looking at the fishies. Anyway, I've used the Stability before in my quarantine tank when I got the rice fish. And so what I did is I followed the dosing directions that are on the bottle of Stability, and I also did daily Prime, Seachem Prime, because that neutralizes ammonia. At the time, I just ran out of test strips and I hadn't gotten any in yet, and I'm still waiting. I just ordered some and I'm still waiting for them to come. And so I haven't done any testing on these yet. They've only been set up for a day or two, and I still need to drop in some filter squeezings, which is what I also usually do to help instantly cycle a tank. Okay, sorry about that. Of course, Kevin decided he needed his breakfast as soon as I started filming this video. Anyway, I can't quite remember where I was at, but in my quarantine tank when I got my rice fish a couple months ago, I used daily Stability, following the directions, and I also dosed daily for Seachem Prime to help neutralize any ammonia that popped up before the cycle was established, which we know it takes, or maybe you don't know, but it can take up to a month for the cycle to become established in aquariums, and it's really important. I'll go over the cycle in another video, and there's lots of videos and articles and blogs and all kinds of stuff you can find information about it. So I knew I was going to be setting up these tanks and having to do some cycling, and so my preferred combination is prime and filter squeezings from an established sponge filter in another tank. I can do that, but right now the tanks are really messy, and I just wanted to work with these products to help make sure I needed to get the fish into the tanks, because these guys from the lower tanks were from my tub ponds, and they needed to go into their tanks pretty quickly because they've been living in pretzel jars on my kitchen table. So I wanted to make sure I was doing the best I could to keep this process as stress-free as possible. And I did do the Stability and the Prime in the pretzel jars as well. I decided with my order from Aquarium Co-op to give the Fritz Zyme 7 a try this time. I did a little bit of research, and I found the difference between the Seachem Stability and the Fritz Zyme 7 is the Seachem Stability is the beneficial bacteria in a spore form, so it's a little bit more shelf stable. And then once you add them to the water, they basically come out of spore form and come alive again. The Fritz Zyme 7 is a live nitrifying bacteria source. And so that's the bit of the difference. And so I decided to go ahead and use both products just kind of to really jumpstart the process, to try and get the cycle done as quickly as possible and help these fish be as safe as possible. And so I dosed the Fritz Zyme 7 according to the established system guidelines for two reasons. One, cost. This stuff is expensive, and it's through Aquarium Co-op. I believe it's $10 a bottle, and which is very reasonable, all things considered. But I would have gone through, I want to say 3 bottles just for the ultimately 8 10-gallon tanks that this rack will have. It's a lot of money. That's $30 just in nitrifying bacteria. I also already had the stability that I was going to be using in addition to the Fritz Zyme 7. So I decided to go with the established system dosage. So I followed the dosage on the bottles, and I also did, I believe the first day on the stability, I did double the dosage. I did read on the Seachem website that you can safely go over the recommended directions without basically putting too much risk for your fish. So I doubled the dose for the first day, and now I've been dosing, and I want to say I'm on, okay, I set the tanks up. This is my little note now because everything's moving over on the 8th. And today is the 10th or the 11th, I think. I can't remember. It's early in the morning for me. And so yesterday I thought the water was getting a little cloudy, and I was right. It is very cloudy. And what that means is there is a bacterial bloom, and it shouldn't be harmful to your fish. I'm not worried about it. Excuse me. The fish are all fine. They're active. The guppy males are courting the females in the tanks where there's females, and there's nobody gasping at the surface. They're all, if you look at these guys, they're all on the bottom grazing, and so everyone's doing really well, and so I'm not worried about these guys. A lot of people panic and immediately rush to do a water change. This will settle naturally. The bacteria bloomed, I believe, because of the addition of both of the nitrifying bacteria supplements. And what'll happen is it'll settle down to meet the level of stocking of the aquarium. And so I have found what can happen sometimes is people chase clearing the water by doing water changes every day, and it actually prolongs your cycle establishing and prolongs the bacterial bloom. And so what I'm going to do is nothing. I'm not going to do a water change. I'm going to monitor my fish, of course. I've been feeding them lightly only once a day just to help make sure that things don't get overwhelmed and we don't have a big ammonia spike or anything like that. But I'm going to watch them. I am going to, the stability is dosed for 7 days. I am not going to dose it anymore right now. There's plenty of bacteria in these tanks because they're cloudy. So I'm going to just watch them. I'm going to keep my feedings light and just once a day. And within a day or two, this should start to dissipate. And they should be doing fine. And so I do have to say I'm a little impressed. I know there's a lot of question as to whether these beneficial bacteria supplements are actually they actually work, they actually do anything. Well, as evidenced by the bacterial blooms in these tanks, they're doing something. They definitely seem like they're working because I've never had a tank that's going through a cycle have a bacterial bloom so quickly. And so I do believe that the addition of the Fritz Zyme 7 really kind of helped extra jumpstart this process. I'm glad to have the stability on hand because it is a shelf-stable product and does have a further expiration date than the live products like the Fritz Zyme 7. And so I can keep it on hand for if I need to establish a quarantine tank or anything like that, just in case. And I don't have as much worry about the product going bad or not being functional a little bit further from the time of purchase. But I do think it's working. I'm still waiting for my test strips. I ordered my aquarium test strips, water test strips, days ago from Chewy, and it took them forever to ship my order this time. I order from Chewy.com all the time, and they've been really good. I've ordered from them for years for so much of my pet supplies and pet food. And this time it just took them forever to ship them, and I'm not really sure why, but they had the best prices at this time of the test strips. I know people are all about the liquid master kit and all of that. Personally, I don't have the energy to deal with all of that and all the drops and counting, and I deal with chronic illness. I like things to be fairly simple. I kind of need things to be fairly simple. And I have found, I ordered the API test strips, and I have found that every time I've used them, they have coordinated with the water testing results I've gotten from my local fish store that uses the API master test kit, the liquid drop kits. So I personally feel that in general, the API test strips tend to be fairly accurate. They're not as nuanced as the drop kits, and you have to kind of take them with a little bit of a grain of salt in terms of interpreting the colors, and you do have to do those in a timely fashion. But I do think that they work. And so I'm going to be using them just to kind of monitor things and just kind of double check how my cycle's going. But things are apparently moving along because I've got bacterial blooms. But I'm really excited about my new tanks. I'm really happy to be working towards getting this new rack set up. And you'll be seeing this after I've done a full walkthrough, quote unquote walkthrough of the rack once it's fully set up. And so you'll be seeing this afterwards. So there's going to be 3 more tanks on here that'll fill in these gaps where where the empty spaces are. But I just wanted to shoot this video during this process of while the bacterial bloom is going on. It's not something to panic about. It's something to watch your fish, make sure they're acting normal and healthy, make sure they're foraging and eating, keep your feedings really light while it's happened. You can do a water change, but honestly, I've just seen doing water changes during these bacterial blooms just prolongs the process. Make sure your fish aren't gasping at the surface. If they're gasping at the surface or they're listless or on the bottom or not looking right, yes, do a water change. Use your water conditioner. You can even, depending on the directions of your water conditioner, a lot of them you can double dose them for safety, just to be careful. But if your fish are looking okay and they're acting normal, then I personally don't do a water change. I let the bacterial blooms settle naturally, and I have found that to be the fastest and most effective way to deal with these during the cycling process. If you get bacterial blooms, once your cycle is established, then you need to look at your feeding and your water change routine and things like that to see what might be going on with your tank that's less than optimal. But during the cycling process, a bacterial bloom is kind of the point. That bacteria needs to become established. And so you don't want to do a lot of futzing with the tanks because that can throw things off even more and prolong the process. So thanks so much for watching. Please consider liking this video, commenting, and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.